Alright folks, lean in close, turn up the volume, because what I'm about to tell you isn't some cheap jump scare stitched together in an editing suite. This is real. Straight from the trembling hands of a man named David Keller, who sent me the details buried in a rambling 3 a.m. email. He didn't want fame, didn't want glory. All he wanted was for someone to believe him. And maybe for it to stop. It was the summer of '09. David, his sister Mara, and their buddy Leo were renting a beat-up shotgun shack up near Pinehill, West Virginia. Not the fancy kind of Pinehill you see on postcards. I'm talking deep woods, cell service that died the moment you crossed the county line. The kind of place where the locals give you strange looks just for breathing their air. The shack itself. 50 years old, wood rotting through in patches, windows sealed with layers of grime that turned daylight into perpetual twilight. They'd gone there to unplug, David said. Get away from jobs, bills, the noise of the world. Simple enough. But from the first night, the silence wasn't silent. The first night, David woke to a sound, not a noise exactly, more like breathing, right beside his ear. He shot up, heart hammering like a tripwire. The room was empty. Just the old ceiling fan wheezing above him, casting jagged shadows that danced over the wallpaper, floral patterns stained dark with what looked like old water damage. He told himself it was the house settling. Told himself the wind was sneaking through cracked boards, but it kept happening. Every night, always different times, sometimes just before sleep, sometimes right after waking. Always that same wet, rhythmic inhale, exhale, right behind him, or behind Mara, or Leo. They'd spin around. Nothing, not a draft, not a critter, just air. Cold, still air that smelled faintly of damp earth and something sweet, like decayed fruit. They tried fixing the windows, boarded up cracks. David even brought a motion sensor from his uncle's security company. Night after night, that little green light stayed steady, no movement, no temperature change. Yet the breathing persistent. Then came the whispers. It started gentle, just syllables, fragments of words buried so deep they sounded like water trickling through stone. Lee come, or so cold. David would catch himself straining to understand, leaning closer, until the sound would cut off sharp as a knife dropped on concrete, but it got louder, more insistent. One night Mara sat up screaming. The whispers had formed a voice, clear as a bell in a silent room. We see you, it had said, not angry, not threatening, just observing. Leo, ever the skeptic, grabbed a voice recorder that night. Set it on the rickety kitchen table. They sat in the flickering glow of a single oil lamp, the air thick with tension. For 2 hours, nothing, just the crackle of the flame. Then the breathing started again, close. So close David felt the hairs on the back of his neck prickle. The recorder caught it, that wet, rhythmic inhale. And then the voice. Behind the wall, we are here, followed by a sound that made all three of them freeze. A low guttural groan, like something massive shifting its weight on the other side of the plaster. The recorder picked up Leo's strangled whisper. What is that? They didn't sleep that night. They didn't even try. They sat staring at the recorder, waiting for the next sound. It never came. But the next morning, the kitchen table was gone, not moved, gone, vanished, as if it had never been there. The oil lamp was still burning, pooled on the floor where the table should have been. Leo's voice on the recording, still playing it back perfectly, that guttural groan, crystal clear. Folks, ever had that feeling like you're not alone? Like something's breathing right behind you, but you're too scared to turn around? Drop a comment below, tell me your story, or ask me for another tale from the shadows, because trust me, there's more where this came from. What happened next? It isn't pretty. They stayed another 3 days. David insisted. We'll figure this out, he said. We'll find the source. Mara was ready to bolt. Leo just kept staring at that empty space where the table had been, muttering about energy shifts and ley lines. The third night, the whispers changed. They weren't just in the air. They were inside their heads, not audible. More like thoughts, except they weren't their thoughts. Images flashed behind David's eyes, a hand reaching from dark water, a mouth stretched wide with too many teeth, a feeling of drowning while standing perfectly dry. Mara heard laughter. Not human laughter, something wet and broken, echoing inside her skull. Leo saw names, etched into the walls of the house, written in something dark and viscous. Names he didn't recognize, names that hurt. They fled at dawn. David grabbed the recorder, stuffed it in his bag. Mara screamed at him to leave it, but he didn't. Proof, he said. We need proof. The drive to the nearest town was a nightmare. Every shadow on the road looked alive. Every creak of the old pickup suspension sounded like claws on wood. They didn't talk, couldn't. The silence was heavier than concrete. Back in his apartment in Charleston, David played the recording for them. And for the first time, he heard something new. Buried under the breathing, under the voice, under that guttural groan was another sound. Faint, almost imperceptible. It sounded like a eating, a wet, rhythmic chewing. Like something large was tearing into flesh and swallowing it down. The three of them sat in stunned silence. Leo vomited in the bathroom. Mara just stared at the player, her face pale as chalk. David tried to upload the recording to a paranormal forum that night. It got flagged almost instantly. Copyright claim, the email said, but the file was corrupted, unplayable. All that remained was silence. He kept a copy on his laptop, and that is where things get icy. 2 weeks later, David called Mara panicking. His laptop had glitched, files deleted, system crashed, but when he rebooted, there was a new folder. A single audio file, no name, just data. He played it. At first it was just static, white noise, the kind you get when a connection drops. Then the breathing, familiar now, that wet, rhythmic inhale, and the voice. Behind the wall, but this time, the chewing sound was louder, clearer, right up front, and layered over it, a dripping, a steady, thick drip, 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 like something viscous was falling onto a metal surface. Then the voice changed. Not we see you, not we are here. This voice was hungry, cold, utterly without emotion. Soon, David deleted the file. Formatting the drive didn't work. Wiping the entire system didn't work. That file, it regenerated. Every time he booted up, always the same, breathing, voice chewing, dripping, and that single word. Soon, he finally threw the laptop in a landfill outside of town, burned his remaining notes, told no one, but he couldn't shake it. Last year I tracked David down. He's a shadow of himself, lives alone, won't let his windows open past a crack, has motion sensors, cameras, the works. When I met him, he kept rubbing his ears, like trying to block out a sound only he could hear. He told me the whispers never stopped. They're quieter now, buried deep, but they're there, always just below the surface, reminding him, remembering him, waiting. And that chewing, the dripping, he hears it too, not on any recording. Not through any device, in his dreams, every night. So what do you think? Ghost, demon, something older? Drop your theories below. And hey, if you've got a story that'll make your skin crawl, send it to me. The darker the tale, the better. I'll read it next time. Until then, keep your doors locked and your ears open, because you never know what's listening behind the wall.